So, listen to this. Lionel Messi has played over 200 matches for the Argentine national team. 200! That's not a career. That's basically a second lifetime lived entirely in a blue and white shirt. He has played Brazil, Germany, and France in a World Cup final that's already being talked about as the greatest ever. He has faced basically every serious footballing nation on the planet at least once, some of them a dozen times over. And in 21 years as a professional, in more than 200 caps for his country, Lionel Messi has never once played England. Not once. Not a friendly, not a qualifier, not a group stage dead rubber. The last time these two nations even met at a World Cup, Messi was 17 years old, just months into his career at Barcelona, nowhere near the senior squad yet. That match ended 1-0 to England in the group stage back in 2002, and by the time Argentina and England were due to cross paths again in any meaningful context, Messi's career had somehow just skipped past it every single time for over 2 decades. Today, in Atlanta, at 39 years old, in what is very possibly the last World Cup of his life, that streak ends. And it ends in a semifinal, with a place in the final on the line, against the one country his entire generational rivalry with Ronaldo, with Neymar, with everyone else who ever got compared to him, somehow never touched. If you don't understand why that's such a strange gap in football history, you need the backstory. Because England versus Argentina was never just about who's better at football. This is a rivalry that has actual blood in its history. In 1982, the two countries were at war over the Falkland Islands, a conflict that killed hundreds of soldiers and is still, to this day, a live political wound on both sides. 4 years later, that unresolved history walks straight onto a football pitch in Mexico, and Diego Maradona punched a ball into the England net with his fist, got away with it, then followed it up minutes later with maybe the greatest solo goal anyone has ever scored, and Argentina went on to win the World Cup. The hand of God wasn't just a cheeky bit of cheating to Argentina, it was framed, deliberately by Maradona himself, as a kind of sporting revenge for a war that had ended just 4 years earlier. Then in 1998, David Beckham got sent off for kicking out at Diego Simeone, spent years afterward being burned in effigy back home, and that whole rivalry curdled into one of the nastiest, most personal fixtures in the sport. This is the history Messi has somehow spent 21 years standing next to without ever actually stepping into it himself. And this week, ahead of kickoff, Argentina's own vice president was already out there stoking it, reportedly describing England as invaders and usurping pirates before a ball had even been kicked. Some rivalries need manufacturing. This one has never needed a single ounce of help. Now let's talk about how Argentina actually got here, because if you've only been half paying attention to this tournament, you might think this is a team that's been cruising. It is not. In the group stage, sure, they looked exactly like what everyone expected. Beat Algeria, beat Austria, beat Jordan, topped their group comfortably. Business as usual for the defending champions. But the knockout stage has been an entirely different story, and honestly, a slightly worrying one if you're an Argentina fan. Round of 32, they needed extra time just to get past Cape Verde. Cape Verde, a nation of 500,000 people playing in their first ever World Cup, and it took 120 minutes and a 3-2 scoreline for Argentina to survive them. Round of 16, they somehow found themselves 2 goals down against Egypt of all teams, before clawing all the way back to win 3-2 in a match that immediately drew real allegations of officiating bias. Not a small forgettable footnote, a genuine controversy that followed them out of that stadium. And then in the quarterfinals, against Switzerland, it happened again. A full 120 minutes, another 3-1 scoreline that needed extra time to arrive. 3 knockout games. 3 times they needed either extra time, a 2-goal comeback, or both, just to keep this run alive. If you're looking for a crack in the armor of the team many people still assume is the best in the tournament, this is exactly where you'd point. And yet, through every bit of that turbulence, one man has been the constant. Messi is having, by every account, one of the greatest individual World Cup campaigns anyone has ever put together. At 39 years old, which on its own should be enough to make you stop and actually sit with that number for a second. 8 goals in 6 matches. He's sitting right at the top of the Golden Boot race, chasing the one individual honor that somehow, in a career that includes basically every trophy football has to offer, has never actually been his. World Cups, Champions Leagues, Ballon d'Ors, Copa Americas. Messi has kissed almost every piece of silverware this sport makes, and the World Cup's top scorer award has just never landed in his hands. This is his best shot at it, in what's very likely his final chance to ever try. And it's not just the Golden Boot on the line today either. It's history that goes back further than either of these teams' living players. If Argentina beat England this afternoon, they're into their third World Cup final in the last 4 editions of the tournament, an absurd run of consistency at the very highest level of the sport. And if they go on to win it, they become the first team to successfully defend a World Cup title since Brazil managed it all the way back in 1962. 64 years. Nobody has done it since. Messi himself would be stepping into territory that not even Maradona ever reached. Diego only ever played in 2 World Cup finals across his entire career. Messi, if he gets through today, would be playing in his third, matching a run that, before this, only Brazil's Cafu had ever managed, back across 1994, 1998, and 2002. That's the company Messi is trying to join this afternoon. Not great players. Cafu, Brazil 1962, and nobody else. But let's not pretend England is just here to make up the numbers, because they very much are not, and the way they got here tells its own story. This has not been a clean, comfortable run for England either. Round of 32 against Congo DR, they needed Harry Kane to bail them out personally, a genuine rescue job from their captain in a game that could easily have gone the other way. Round of 16 against Mexico, they won 3-2 while playing with 10 men for a big chunk of the match after Jarell Quansah picked up a red card that's still costing them today. He's serving the second game of his suspension this afternoon, meaning England go into a World Cup semifinal without one of their starting center backs. And in the quarterfinal against Norway, it was Jude Bellingham who stepped up with a brace to complete a turnaround and drag England over the line. Say what you want about the manner of these wins, but a team that keeps finding a way to survive knockout football, no matter how ugly it gets, is exactly the kind of team that tends to go all the way. This current England squad is a single win away from their first World Cup final since 1966. 60 years of nothing, of near misses, of penalty shootout heartbreak, of an entire country's football culture built around bracing for disappointment. And more than that, if they somehow go all the way and win it, it would be their first ever World Cup title won on foreign soil, since the only one they've ever had came from hosting the tournament themselves. So look at what actually collides in Atlanta this afternoon. On one side, you've got the greatest player of his generation, arguably of any generation, playing the one country he's spent 21 professional years somehow never facing. At 39 years old, in what is almost certainly his last realistic shot at a World Cup, chasing a golden boot that's eluded him his entire career, and trying to join a group of exactly one other team in the last 64 years to defend a World Cup title. On the other side, you've got an England squad down a defender that's needed a rescue act, a 10-man miracle, and a match-winning brace just to survive 3 knockout rounds, 1 win away from ending 60 years of hurt, and doing something no England side in history has ever done on the road. Messi himself said it best after getting through the quarterfinal, that making it this far isn't something you treat like it's normal because you genuinely don't know if you'll ever get another chance at it. For a 39-year-old playing what's likely his final World Cup, that's not just a quote, that's the entire stakes of this game in one sentence. Kickoff is 3 o'clock Eastern, this afternoon in Atlanta. In Messi's career, this fixture has simply never happened. Whatever happens over the next 90 minutes, or however long it takes given the way this tournament's knockout rounds have been going, I don't think either of these countries is going to forget it anytime soon. I'll be back the second that final whistle blows.